Shattered Reflections. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, casting a pale glow over the chipped mug of coffee that sat forgotten on the counter. Anna stirred the remnants of her drink, the steam curling like a ghost of the life they once shared. Across the room, Daniel stood at the stove, his back to her, the faint scent of burnt toast lingering in the air. Their routines had become a silent dance, dutiful, predictable, and hollow. They had built a life of quiet rituals, Daniel's early mornings, Anna's late-night grading, the children's laughter echoing through the house. Yet beneath the surface, something had shifted. Anna had noticed it first, the way Daniel's eyes drifted to his phone during dinner, the way he'd begun leaving for work before the sun rose, the way his laughter had grown distant, like a radio signal fading into static. "You're not yourself lately," she said one evening, her voice soft but edged with concern. Daniel shrugged, his gaze fixed on the TV, "Just tired." The words hung between them, unspoken tensions coiling like vines. Anna had learned to read the silence better than words. She had spent years navigating the unspoken language of their marriage, the way Daniel's shoulders slumped when he returned from work, the way his hands trembled when he held hers, the way he'd started wearing his wedding ring on the wrong finger. But it wasn't until the first snowfall that the cracks began to show. The affair began not with a grand gesture, but with a quiet moment. Daniel had met at a medical conference 3 years prior, a colleague whose sharp wit and unflappable demeanor reminded him of the woman he'd once been. She had been married then too, but her divorce had left her with a kind of restless energy that Daniel, trapped in the monotony of his life, found intoxicating. Their meetings had started as professional exchanges, coffee after lectures, brief conversations about patient care. But over time, the conversations grew longer, the coffee darker, the silence between them had a way of making him feel seen, of asking questions that made him pause. "What do you want, Daniel? What's holding you back?" He told her about the loneliness of his routine, the way his marriage had become a series of obligations rather than a partnership. She listened without, her presence a mirror to the parts of himself he'd buried beneath years of routine. Yet for Anna, the first sign was subtle, a misplaced key, a missing sweater, a text message on Daniel's phone that read, "Let's grab dinner tonight." She didn't confront him immediately. Instead, she waited, her mind replaying the way he'd smiled at the conference, the way his eyes had lingered on her, as if she were a puzzle he couldn't solve. The discovery came on a Thursday, the air thick with the smell of rain. Anna had returned home early, her mind preoccupied with a grading deadline. She found Daniel in the living room, his phone in hand, his expression unreadable. "Where were you last night?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with anger. He looked up, his jaw tightening. "I was working." "Working, you were with?" The word hung in the air, sharp and final. Daniel's hand trembled as he set the phone down. "Anna, we need to talk." She stepped closer, her chest rising with a mix of fury and sorrow. "You were supposed to be here with me." The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in as Daniel's silence stretched. Finally, he exhaled, his voice rough. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "It's not about that anymore," she said, her voice cracking. "It's about the fact that you chose someone else over us." The words were a blade, and they cut deeper than she expected. Daniel's eyes glistened, but he didn't apologize. Instead, he reached for her hand, his touch tentative. "We can work through this." Anna pulled away. "Can we?" The question lingered, unanswered. In the weeks that followed, the couple's attempts to salvage their marriage were like a patchwork quilt, fragile, mismatched, and prone to unraveling. They sought counseling, but the sessions felt like a performance, each of them rehearsing the roles of victim and. Anna accused Daniel of emotional abandonment, while he blamed himself for failing to meet her needs. Their children, caught in the crossfire, grew quiet. Teenager Max, 15, began slamming doors and retreating to his room, his anger simmering beneath a mask of indifference. Younger daughter Lily, 8, asked if they were broken, her small voice echoing the fear that had taken root in her. Meanwhile became a shadow in Daniel's life. He would call her, their conversations laced with guilt and longing. She, in turn, seemed to understand the weight of his choices, offering comfort without. Yet, in her presence, Anna felt a quiet resentment, a recognition that Daniel had chosen another woman's love over his own. The marriage, once a foundation, now felt like a house built on sand. The divorce proceedings were as messy as the relationship itself. Legal battles over custody, financial settlements, and the emotional toll on the children left everyone exhausted. Max, in particular, struggled. He began skipping school, his grades plummeting, and his once vibrant personality. Lily, meanwhile, clung to her stuffed animals, her nightmares filled with images of broken things. Anna found herself overwhelmed by the weight of it all. She tried to be strong for her children, but nights were spent in tears, her mind replaying the moments that had led to this. Daniel, too, felt the crushing weight of his choices. He began to isolate himself, his once bright career now a hollow shell. Yet in the chaos, there were moments of clarity. Anna met a fellow teacher who had gone through a similar divorce, and they shared stories of rebuilding lives. Daniel, during a rare visit to his mother's house, found solace in the quiet of his childhood bedroom, where he'd once dreamed of being a doctor. Months later, the house felt empty. The children had moved on, Max attending a vocational school and Lily starting piano lessons with a new teacher. Anna had taken a part-time job at a community center, her days filled with the hum of children's laughter and the quiet satisfaction of small victories. Daniel, meanwhile, had enrolled in a travel photography course, his camera a metaphor for the new lens through which he viewed the world. He no longer saw his marriage as a failure, but as a chapter that had ended, not a story that had been ruined. On the day of their final visit, Anna and Daniel sat on the porch, the sun casting long shadows across the yard. They didn't speak much, but there was a mutual understanding, a recognition that they had both been changed by the experience. "We are not the same people," Anna said softly. "Daniel, no, but we are still here." As they watched the children play in the distance, a sense of cautious hope settled over them. The marriage had shattered, but in its place, something new had begun to take root. In the end, the reflections were not broken, but transformed. Anna and Daniel had learned that love could be a mosaic of pieces, some lost, some reshaped. The children, too, had found their own ways to heal, Max through art, Lily through music, each of them carrying the memory of their family's dissolution as a quiet strength. And in the quiet moments, when the light filtered through the windows and the silence spoke louder than words, they remembered that even in the deepest fractures, there could be light.